powinno być gotowe.
Dobra, okej, no to jedziemy.
Dobra. Okay, welcome back after a short break. So in one of the last slides, I was telling you that we can recognize your age of the brain just from the scans. Your age of the brain just from scans of your brain, and it's clearly visible here. It has many important information. This is a huge and powerful technology that enables to really recognize the age of the subject. Once someone, for instance, lost his documents, maybe it happens in instances. But once we get it, as you can see, it's very, very powerful technology. Your brain tells many different things. Like if you drink alcohol, here on this figure, it shows how the brain changes according to drinking alcohol. On the right hand side, you can see the control group. So this is the perfect brain. All the streamlines, all this red, blue, and green streams refers to the white matter tracks. So on the right hand side, you can see white matter tracks are perfectly displayed. And this is the control group. Control group, I mean someone who has not been drinking alcohol. And on the left hand side, you can see the prenatal exposure. So it means that if your mother drinks the alcohol, it may affect you. If the mother drinks alcohol, it may affect the children. So you can see significant deterioration of the brain on the left hand side. There is a new trend in evaluating the brain, the human brain. If you want to check what happens in next generations, so typically one has to wait like 20, 30 years. But actually, the brain of gorillas or squirrel or chimpanzee are very similar to that, the brain of the typical human brain. And what we can do is to check what happens to, for instance, squirrel brain or macaque brain or gorilla's brain, and quite quickly we can quickly evaluate what happens in the next generation. So, for instance, gorillas or chimpanzees is able to make the children after 5-6 years. So the adult, this kind of animal gets the adult year to be able to reproduce after 5-6 years, even 4 in some special kind of the animals like macaque. So we can very quickly evaluate if such kind of alcohol exposure or even treatment to some kind of disease or even other related fact transfers to your children. So instead of waiting like 20 or 30 or even more years to check if alcohol, for instance, if drinking alcohol affects your children, we can easily evaluate it with other animals, with some kind of animals like chimpanzees, gorillas, or macaque, and check how the alcohol of one generation affects the another generation. And then once the brain shows significant similarities between each other, we can infer what happens in next generation if mother and father drinks an alcohol, for instance, in mother and father use drugs or any other related substance. So this is very other powerful mechanism, and this is one of the recent trend in brain imaging that enables us to see the future, to see what happens in next generations, how some factors like alcohol, drugs, like any substances affect next generations. And there are the last 2 slides refer to the computational stuff since nowadays to evaluate all these brains to provide this advanced technology, we need to use powerful machines, we need powerful programming languages, powerful technologies. But using powerful technologies not enough. I mean, there are many different programming languages, like recently introduced Rust programming languages. I don't know if you are familiar, but for instance, some companies started to rewriting their critical software in Rust. For instance, there are other languages like Go, and these are very safe languages. I mean, they have bright future, but using this advanced technology is not enough. I mean, you need to know how to correctly program such kind of algorithms, computer algorithms, to spread the computations across many computers. So for instance, instead of making calculations on your laptop or even computer in laboratory, sometimes it's not enough. I mean, you must prepare the computer program, the computer algorithm, in such a way that it spreads over many computers, like even 100 computers, even 200 computers, and each computer is enabled to use all the cores. So for instance, consider that you have a farm of computers, 100 computers, and each computer calculates a part of the very big algorithm. It calculates some small thing, and each core of this computer calculates even smaller thing. And once we have, for instance, farm of computers, 100 computers, and each computer has like 16 cores, for instance. So we have 1,600 cores, so we can calculate something very quickly, some procedures very quickly. So this is why the parallel computing is today is a must. On the right hand side, you see what happens if you calculate, if you do serial computing with your laptop, for instance. So you have a lot of tasks to be done. For instance, brain segmentation, labeling, calculation, some measures, transformation to atlases, and so on and so on. And each of these task takes a lot of time. So what we are doing right now is spreading the information across the farm of computers. This is quite it has a bright future. The last thing, last slide I want to talk. This presentation is that these technologies like magnetic resonance imaging produce a lot of data, lot of data. So here you can see how this data transform. What's the transformation of this data? So 20, 30 years ago, it was enough to put a single CD, or nowadays even a stick with the memory. But this kind of imaging, medical images, produces a lot of data, and this data must be stored in another farm of computers that enables to store a huge amount of data. For instance, in a laptop or even phone, it's impossible to store such a big database of the data. You can store, I don't know, for 100 patients on your laptop, but no more. 100 patients for no more. But typical hospital or typical imaging center has thousands of patients. So you can imagine how many of these, let's say, computers in a farm, let's say, we needed to store the data. So it was last slide of my presentation. I just wanted to briefly tell you several things of the brain, of the computing. If you have questions, so do not hesitate to ask any questions.
Okay, any questions, guys? If you have a question, maybe you can approach so that Tomasz can hear you. Sorry?
Not really. Can you once again?
No, I mean, okay. Może słuchać teraz? Czy nie bardzo? So you can approach
Słychać.
and ask the question.
So as I understood, you are like working with the data about like brain. So
Yes.
if you compare the, let's say, like age 10 years ago and now, like current post-COVID era, is there any significant like change in some values for the brain or not?
Yeah. Yes, there is one or two papers. I think one of them is published in Nature that shows how as far as I remember, the gray matter changes. It's called, but there's it is difficult to directly explain and directly answer the questions. Is if you notice, the COVID was not the only part of the whole, let's say, problem. For instance, we don't know if the patients if the patient who are affected by COVID was, for instance, we don't have this information typically. This is the most problematic thing, that in all the evaluations that we carefully select the group. I mean, if we want to evaluate how the alcohol affects the brain, we carefully select the control group, who are the people do not drink alcohol, and the alcoholic group. Yeah, if you want to evaluate how the brain changes with, for instance, once you learn two languages from the beginning, carefully select the groups of the control group and those people who have been learning two languages in a row. But with COVID, it's much more difficult because we don't know the history of those guys. So we can have the guys from very different fields. I mean, we don't know if this guy was drinking alcohol, if this guy was taking drugs, if this guy is a bilingual or not. So it is very difficult to clearly clearly answer the question. Yes, COVID affects the brain, but no, COVID does not affect the brain, because the groups that were chosen for the analysis, typically in such a analysis, it's very difficult to choose the group. I mean, to carefully select the group.
Okay,
this is very difficult to answer the
like
question.
million data for like 10 years before and now. So you can like at least say some like your opinion. I think, like, what is your personal opinion? Did it change or not?
Yes, there are some changes according to the papers, but I'm not sure if it's if the changes are very, let's say, significant. I mean,
Okay.
but once again, it is difficult to analyze because it is difficult to find who were scanned before the COVID era. So consider that if you want to really check what happened to those people, we need to find the scans of those people who were scanned before 2019 or 2020, yeah, something. And this is the most difficult part of the and the next problem is sometimes for instance, COVID. Some people had COVID without any symptoms. So they had COVID without any symptoms, without high temperature, without almost no symptoms, but that they got the positive test, for instance. Yeah. So, in my opinion, it's very difficult to clearly answer the question because it's difficult to select the group.
But if you like select like whole population data, I don't see it like that significant. Okay.
Once again,
if you like have the whole group, you know, for example, like
yeah,
20 years old, like 10 years before and now. So in general, like mathematically speaking, like for million people, it shouldn't be that significant because like some person will be drinking, some not. So just if it's changed or not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, I think we have next question.
Yes, I like that.
You can just approach.
Hi, I have a question actually.
Hi.
You said that some substances can affect the structure of the brain, right?
And
know?
microstructure, yes.
Yeah, the structure.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
And you have talked a lot about alcohol and drugs. Like, what about like tested like drugs, like for example, second generation antidepressants? They have like an effect on the structure on the brain in a long term. Like, for instance, a patient.
I haven't. Yeah. I mean that you, for instance, the father taking drugs and how it affects to their children. Yeah.
No.
This
Like,
is what we are asking.
I'm asking. Okay, you will have like 10 patients. They take antidepressants in a controlled environment. Okay, they take these antidepressants for a long period of time. Their brain change, like in the structure. There are some changes, there are not changes. Like in drugs that are actually controlled and legal, approved.
Okay, yeah.
And specifically in antidepressant of second generation, so SRI, I think.
Yes.
So the question is,
so this is the question you are asking.
It's a question. It's not a statement, it's a question. Are there any changes in brains of the people who
to the second generation?
No, second generation.
The second generation.
No, second generation antidepressants. It's a group of pharmacos, like a group of medication that are called antidepressants of second generation, like the recent antidepressants. Okay.
Yeah.
There is any change that happen in the brain of people who take those kind of pharmacos for a long period of time in a
for sure, I'm also for sure, but you should. I'm not aware of such a paper, such a research, but I'm sure that you can find some papers that describe. But once again, the problem of long evaluation of the brain is that you need these people to come once again after 5 years, after 10 years.
Yes.
And promise me, it is very difficult to analyze to organize such a. For instance, I'm aware only of one paper published in Neuroimage. Neuroimage is one of the top journals in neuroimaging. That guys from one university analyzed the brain of the patient over 15 years. But there's only one paper that I'm aware of this. It's very difficult to catch these people to come to the scan once again. For instance, a friend of mine who is worked longitudinal study, how the brain changes across life, tells me that almost 30%, up to 40% of participants are not coming for the second time, for the third time. So you have a group of 100 people, and approximately 40% of those people are not coming after 1 year, after 1 year, are not coming.
Like,
and even they pay for,
Yes.
Even they pay for them, but they are not coming. They are not coming.
There are any studies on
making such a.
There are any studies on like.
I don't know if there are.
Not any studies on animals, like any studies on like chimpanzee or monkeys. There are on specifically on like.
I don't know.
Okay. I'm gonna.
Probably yes. I can talk. You can search it, but keep in mind. Keep in mind that it's very difficult for some people to ask them to come once again. Even you pay for them. You have money. You get accommodation for them, but it's difficult because they are not gonna come. They simply say, I came 1 time and I'm not gonna come. And friends of mine who are doing longitudinal analysis of the brain tells me 30 to 40% of the people, according to different types of the evaluation, are not coming after 1 year. If they are not coming after 1 year, it's unlikely to come after 2, 3, 4 years. So it's very difficult to evaluate such a research because people are.
Thank you very much.
I have one question because we have many international students studying in different countries. How did you end up in Spain? So where did you study? Where did you do your research? Let's say starting from Poland and ending in Spain.
Yeah, so this was very nice. I was studying computer science. I was studying mathematics in Poland, computer science, mathematics in Poland, and I was at second years of my study. I was interested in applications of computer science in biomedicine, in brain imaging, in cardiac imaging, and so on and so on. Once I defended my master thesis, I started the PhD program. And at some point, I was working on a quite complicated mathematical problem, which was related to estimating the noise in the data, which was not trivial problem. And I found a guy from Spain, and he was kind of expert in this kind of problem, this kind of data. And simply, I asked him if I can come, and got the answer in 5 minutes. Yes, just buy the plane tickets and come. And this is how my let's say journey with Spain started, like almost 10 years ago. Almost 10 years ago, and since then, I have been defending I defended my PhD and my postdoc and so on.
Okay, very
This
well.
is how I'll end up.
If we still have some time, there is another question. Do we have some time?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I just wanted to ask. Hi. I just wanted to ask because
Yeah.
you already mentioned that we're using MRI, which is magnetic resonance imaging. We're moving water molecules to create magnetic resonance, and that creates an image, which is like a 3D image. We know about that because we studied.
Yeah, I just clip all the information, and
Yeah.
because I just keep all this technical information.
It was pretty concise. I loved it. I just wanted to ask, where do you think in the field of medical technology we're headed in terms of new technologies? Because this is quite old and it has been happening for like quite a few years. So now we have moved past molecular levels. Like now we don't just rely on molecular, structures, but we also take much smaller things into account. So do you think is anything being done on subatomic level for this technology that we might use, or anything?
Yeah, we can use microscopy, for instance. Yeah, with microscopy, there is a new trend that we try to interfere from. Well, actually, there is a trend in medical imaging to cross different modalities like magnetic resonance imaging and positron emission tomography. Yeah?
Oh,
so
yes,
for instance,
I know about that.
Computed tomography and positron emission tomography. So for instance, you want to scan, you want to predict or scan the brain, and on top of this, you put the information about, for instance, how
the consumption of energy, how much energy is being consumed.
Structure information on top of this. Yeah, on top of this, you put the information on the different structural level. Yes, and for instance, microscopy and magnetic resonance imaging. There are papers that compare these two modalities. And on top of this, you can provide different modalities like structure put on and on top of this, you can provide the activity, brain activity, or you can provide the results from positron emission tomography. So this field is actively evolving just to synergy 2 or 3 technologies presenting different phenomena, physical phenomena, together to get some compound, let's say, effect. Awesome. And one of them is, for instance, computed tomography and MRI and PET. One of them is by the magnetic resonance imaging and microscopy. Yeah, microscopy, and they put them together. So this is probably this is one of the...
Great, thank you. Another question I had was about, sorry, I can't phrase it properly. I was just asking about how do you think that we are able to use this technology in terms of forensic and criminal investigations? Because you previously mentioned on your slide that every time person has even like certain thoughts and certain activities literally like create neurologically new synapses in the brain, and it's not just like thought, but it's like a physical process. So do you think it has any implications in terms of criminology and things like that? Like, for example, if somebody's having thoughts of killing someone over and over again. So can it be detected as well or not?
Yeah. This is some interesting another venue for this to create a digital, let's say, digital notebook, digital view of a person who might potentially make a crime. So this is very interesting. Another very interesting venue. And also looking for other people. First, there is quite much more interesting that you have for instance, someone who committed a crime, and you get some parameters, and you are trying to fit, let's say the fingerprint of the brain, your database to a similar person who did similar crimes, or looking for those people who made similar crimes. So this is also the bright future. But the another thing is, what is the ethics, the border of ethics? Can we use such information to infer about? So there is another problem of ethics, ethical commitment, I think.
So, thank you.
Okay, and the last
Welcome.
question, if we can. The very last one.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
Sorry, first you were talking about COVID, but
Yeah.
I need to ask.
I'm not the expert in COVID.
Okay. No, because I really like to know your opinion about COVID, about vaccine, against COVID.
Vaccines.
Vaccine.
No,
Vaccine.
no. I'm not gonna talk about this. This is, I think, out of scope of the today talk. I'm not gonna talk about it. Yeah.
Okay, so I think
I'm not the medical doctor. I'm not the medical doctor, so it's better not to talk about these vaccines and COVID. And so on.
okay. So one more. The last,
Yeah,
the last one.
last. Hi. I want to ask like how social medias are affecting our brain, or also like acting on our brain.
Dramatic. Throw the Twitter, Facebooks, and LinkedIn to throw to the. It's dramatic.
Okay.
It's better not to use Facebook, log out from Facebook, Twitter, and all these TikToks. And
No, but can you see any changes in our brains? If you scan
I haven't been checking that, but I'm sure that there are papers like checking how the mass media affect your brain.
Okay.
I'm more than sure that there are papers, but I have not been evaluating this kind of effect.
Okay, so I think like that's all probably from our side. So thanks a lot. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Thank you.
It was really nice hearing you. It was really interesting. And yeah, we'll discuss it about later between us. So once again, thanks and
Thank you. And that's all. If someone wants to contact me, so you have let me share the screen once again. Here. You can find me on Twitter or email like this.
Or I'll just take a photo and I will share it with everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. So thanks.
Thank you once again. See you. Have a good evening.
The recording stop.